Just wanted to do that shit.
I'd be like, welcome back.
Yeah,
we're gonna be talking about identity. So before we get into this discussion about identity, we just want everybody to know we're gonna be talking from our own experience. Everybody's able to do whatever they want to do in this world, but we just going off our own experience, you know what I'm saying, and just kind of sharing our own point of view. So we don't want nobody to be getting in their feelings or anything like that. You know, we're going to keep it raw and real like always.
Yes, always. And just a reminder, this is a place where we have discussion. And like I said, in order to be comfortable or get comfortable, you have to be uncomfortable.
That's right.
So you got to have those uncomfortable conversations. And this is what 293 Co. do. We have uncomfortable conversations to try to take the stigma out of things and mental illness, should I say.
Well, it's like, you know, with society today and everything like that, you know, just from my own personal experience and how I see things, it's just like when you have a mental health problem, it's already hard dealing with that. It's already hard just as a person trying to find yourself and figure out who you are as a person. You know, some people who don't even have mental health issues are still trying to find their own identity.
That's true.
But, you know, it's hard sometimes when you go out into the world and people look at you and they view you one way already without even asking. Sometimes you already got an identity of what other people see in you, and it wasn't even your choice. It's like they created the ego for you.
Well, I feel like as a child, we grow up and we mask different because we come into different relationships. We meet different people. You know, we have different jobs. We have different things in our life that goes on that kind of create that self-identity, right?
Right.
And so a lot of times, I think that's where the water gets murky, should I say, because we end up like we meet toxic people that changes who we are as a person, right? So either we take on that toxicity or we try to, like I said before in our earlier podcast, pleasing a person, being nice. And so that changes a lot of things, and I think people don't really know who they really are at the end of the day. It's not until they're by maybe 60 a lot of the time.
Well, it just depends because, you know, like I said before, some people are brought up, you know, especially in different cultures and stuff like that. Their parents already telling them when they're a baby or even before they're born who and what they're going to be. You know, some places say, hey, you got to carry on the family generation, you know. So it's just like,
so pretty much molding that child
right
on, not, would I say morals? If
you can say morals, and you can also say guidelines. Yeah. I mean, depending on what type of family you come from or what type of culture you come from, you know, like I said, some people don't get a choice.
That's true.
And that's why I feel like, especially with celebrities, you know, especially if you're a childhood star and you growing up, you get molded into being on TV, but you don't have a social life. You don't get to do normal kid stuff, you know, and then what happens? You're already doing adult-like activities, you know what I'm saying? Because you hang around adults all the time, and then once your career is over, being that childhood star, you can't go from being a childhood star to going into being able to be an adult entertainer as far as like making movies and doing all that kind of stuff. But if you made it as a child star, people gonna always remember you as that little kid.
That's true.
And so it's like, you know, a lot of celebrities be like, man, well, it's kind of hard to get a serious role because everybody remember me as little mini me, you know? So then they struggle with their identity because everybody gave you the identity of whatever we seen you grow up as on TV, you know? So, you know, it's just like finding yourself and finding your identity is hard. It's hard for a lot of people. It is hard because you know what? When you wake up every day is a different day.
That's true.
And if you go on in life going by what people say, who you should be and what they think you are, you carry that with you. So it's like you wearing a backpack and you take everything that everybody give you and you stuff it in that backpack so that every time you see those individuals, you bring out that quality and that different personality for them because that's who they see you as. But then once you put what they see you as back in the backpack and you go home, right, and you put the backpack on the ground and you may sit on the couch for 2 or 3 minutes, you sit there stuck wondering like, who am I? Or if you have to look in that mirror and be like, who am I? You looking at a complete stranger because you don't know who you are exactly.
That's true.
Some people in this world, you think about it, they do drugs, alcohol. That's part of them. You know, when you hear some people who have like serious drug abuse problems or alcoholic problems, and you sit down and you have these conversations with them, and they'll be like, well, this is who I am. This is what I was brought up around, you know, and some of it's trauma-based too. And they think like, if that's all they know and nobody's around trying to make that change, or if they decide not to make that change, or they too scared to make that change because they don't know who they could actually become, you stick to what you know, or you stick to what you know, that identity that everybody gave you.
Right.
Because not too many of us can sit there and say, Just straight up, if somebody asks, hey, yo, Cherry, who are you? The first thing your mind going to do, I guarantee you, is go back to that encyclopedia where everybody done gave you qualities about yourself, and you're going to decipher through it.
Well, it's going to take a moment for me to answer.
That's what I'm saying.
Back then, it would have took me a moment to answer.
That's what I'm saying.
I think, we don't, as a child, we really don't, we want, thing is we want friends, right? When we go off to school, we want to be the cool kid, or we want just friends. So like you said, we take on a mask that's not us, but it's that of our friends or our peers, because we want to be well liked, or we want to be well reciprocated, should I say?
Yeah, you could use that word. Because I be over here making up my own words. They sound good though. But you get the point.
I get the point.
Hey, but you know what? Take it back though, when you said high school. Prime example. When we go to high school, even in school in general, everybody's put into a category. And that category is also as part of your identity.
Yeah.
You got the drama club kids, you got the chess club kids, you got the athletes, which are considered the jocks, you got the nerds, you know what I'm saying? Then geeks. You got the skater kids, you know what I'm saying? You got the kids that wear the all black, heavy metal type rock. So no matter where you go in life, you're going to get put in a category that's going to go towards the identity of you in a way, whether you like it or not. I mean, I remember times when I was a little kid, you know what I'm saying? And I always wore boy clothes, went through the little phase with the baggy clothes. And then it was just like, being that athlete, I would get identified all the time. Oh, he. And you'd be like, no, I'm a female, I'm not a boy. I'm a girl. And then you get the other look like, are you sure you're a girl? Because you look like a boy. And then, when you tell people that you a girl, they be like, nah, you a boy. No, I'm a girl. Now, if I said I was a boy, people probably be like, no, you a girl. But you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, that's confusing growing up, because it also affects your self-esteem. Like, well, damn, why can't people just see me for me? And then it's just like, you get to that age where you be like, man, can't use public bathrooms because everybody's staring at me. Like, I know I'm a girl,
That's true. That's true.
And then that's when you get misidentified, People will sit there now. They'll be like, sir, can I help you with anything? Sir, this and that. And I'm just like, damn, I don't even sound like a dude, but So I don't even correct people.
I think they just look at the
clothes.
The clothes or the
hair.
Just the image. They don't really give a full scan of what a person look like. They just look up real quick, and then it is what it is in their brain. On that note, there is Pride coming up. And so, June
the 25th.
June the 25th. So, pronouns.
Let's talk about the pronouns.
Let's talk about it. Because, I'm a lesbian, and I am still confused about the pronoun. And I've tried many ways. I mean, we had a podcast on pronoun. At the end of the day, I was still confused, right?
I was confused too. Because I don't understand them all, and some things are just not for you to understand. I respect what people do, because you want people to be able to be themselves and live life. I respect that 100%. But for me, I just don't identify with pronouns.
Why is that?
Because I've always been misidentified. People can't even get my gender correct.
Right.
And the thing of it is just that.
So what's your true identity though? Like
female.
Okay.
And people be like, well, what's your pronoun? I be like, I'm just bony. Right. Like, why we got to make things complicated?
Right.
But the problem that I see with pronouns is that it's not even a major problem, but just coming from the mental health aspect of it, is people who are diagnosed with, schizophrenia, personality disorder, and they may have a psychosis moment, for the longest, when people would disassociate and become a different person, and they can give you a different name because people who don't understand, like DID, dissociative identity disorder,
definitely DID.
They have different personalities of themselves, and they become a whole different person. And when they go into that mindset, it's just like whoever they are at that time is who they are. Right. You have to accept that. Right. They have a full different name, everything. But the thing of it is that if that can't be accepted into society on who they are, then like why? And society still haven't accepted, like, oh, you need to take your medication or whatever. But if a person's going around saying, well, hey, I go by this and I identify this, and you have to accept it, then we have to accept everything, especially in the mental world, all around in general.
I just feel like there's a little bit with pronouns. I feel like there's a gray area, especially when you start moving into, like you said, DID. If anybody know DID, they have alter egos. And really, when a person, they can be a 4-year-old at that moment, right?
Right.
And when that 4-year-old comes forward, that really is the 4-year-old.
Right.
you are no longer talking to Janice. You know, you're no longer talking to that grown woman. You're talking to a 4-year-old. And then that 4-year-old may stay like 4 minutes, right? Or longer. And it'll bounce to, my name is John. So at that moment, they're John. So that's why I say it's a little bit of a gray area because, you know, we're asking people, you know, to accept one way, but stigma on the other way, right? And so... And these people really do struggle with, like I said, DID. It's just a very difficult diagnosis.
Well, then at the same time, I just feel like, you know, it messes with people's self-esteem too.
How's that?
Well, because like you hear some people that, you know, they may be in a part of the LGBT community and they struggle with their identity or coming out and they're trying to find themselves, but they're not ready to know like who they are, which, you know what I'm saying? Everybody go through that, you know, gay, straight, doesn't matter. But the thing of it is that pronouns are still putting a title on things. They, them. Well, we already got he, she, you know, the basis that we grew up in our generation, it was either one or the other, and that was it, you know. And now we got all these other acronyms and synonyms, whatever you want to call them, coming into play. It's kind of confusing, you know. Like I said, especially for me, I get misidentified all the time. So it just kind of like, say for my example, how am I supposed to feel? I tell somebody, I'm like, they look at me, go to the doctor office, look at the paperwork and stuff, and I'll be like, yeah, I'm a female. Ain't nothing about me changed. I had a doctor one time that asked, was like, oh, you going through the change? No, I naturally look like this, you know? So it's just like, still getting put into these categories. And then they ask, well, what's your pronoun? Like, I'm going to change my pronoun to like he, they, whatever. No, I'm still female. I'm bony. But they're making things more complicated now. When you go into the doctor office, you still got to fill out pronouns now. It's hard enough, you know what I'm saying? You got to fill out your name, got to fill out the insurance and all this other information. Now they're adding one more part to it. And it's being forced now that they have to put that on paperwork. Right. You know, I don't even feel that out anymore. I'm just like, this is, you know, they doing too much.
I just feel like I'm still like
I don't get it either. I guess maybe we old school. I don't get it either.
And I'm trying. And here's the thing that I run into as a lesbian. I run into because we're from the older generation. I run into if you misidentify someone, they get very angry, very angry. Instead of getting very angry, you know, I feel like they probably should like have a conversation with that person or pull that person over to the side. But I feel like it becomes they just get very angry. And I feel like at that moment, that's no longer coming from a place of identity or self-acceptance. It's coming from a place of trauma. Really, it is. When I see a person who's being misidentified, and I get it. Like you said, you've been misidentified for years, decades. I have too. And the only thing I can just say to people is like, I'm a female or ma'am. And they be like, oh, I'm sorry. That's it. You know, we're not, it doesn't go into an anger spat or we're getting angry about something unless somebody's really deliberating trying to be a fucking dick about shit. I'm going to be honest with you. When you run into those type of people who are fucking dicks and choose not to understand or even have uncomfortable conversation with you to get to a point where there is some type of understanding and some type of a relief of that stigma, there's no point of trying to educate that person, period.
Right. That's true.
There is no point when they're going out of their way to deliberately to hurt you in a way. And some people, I've seen people have, you know, say, you know what, I identify he, she, okay, or identify as them, that okay. And I may come back and it's like, okay, well, what makes you think what makes you want to identify it? There's a conversation started.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And there's a comfortable conversation moving towards the comfort zone.
Right.
Okay, we're having this conversation. She's educating me, or he's educating me, or they are educating me, right? And then when you get to other people and they don't want to have that conversation, they're just being assholes about it and going out of their way to do it after you didn't communicate. Don't sit there and try to argue with the person. Don't even get angry, because at the end of the day, their bullyish has nothing to do with you. It's a trauma. Right. Is how you respond to it tells me a lot about you. No longer do I see who you are as you identify as. I see you as a person that's coming from trauma. Really, I do.
And the thing of it is too is just that like people who can come out here and they be like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that, and they're confident in themselves. I applaud them. Yeah. You know, it take a lot to do that, because you know what I'm saying, you know, they probably had to take a lot of people, you know, being negative towards them to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna live for me. You know what I'm saying? And like, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do that. So you know what I'm saying? Like,
but that just shows me, like, if you identify like with the pronoun, you're comfortable in that they, them, like there's a different type of confidence.
Yeah.
Like you said, identity. You identify, you know who you are. You're self-identity. You already know who you are. But if you burst out, have angry spats, you don't know who you are. So
yeah, you don't know who you are, and it's just
why
like,
you expect people to take you
you
seriously?
put up that wall. Like I told, like I've had people try to come in defense for me, like when somebody misidentify me, and I be like, y'all, they ain't even that serious. Like
It really ain't.
I tell people now, you know, especially little kids, because you know they the funniest. They be like, "Are you a boy or girl?" I'm like, "I'm whatever you want me to be."
Yep.
I'm like, I can be Batman for you. I'm whatever you want to be,
Right.
you know, because I mean, like, I don't have time to explain to the little kids. They ain't mine, you know. You just in the, you know. I'm just like, so you know, with kids it's fun. I'm just like, well, I'm whatever you want to be. You know, they laugh and go on about their business because you know,
Right.
trying to explain it to a child, it's just like trying to teach them algebra half of the time, you
That
know.
is so
and it's
true.
like if you can't get it through, when adults look confused, you know, hell, you don't. Mama just go ahead and be like, you know what, it don't even matter no more.
It really does. Like, I think people just take it to the extreme, and you know, and I hear a lot of fighting for, you know, it's our right. It's your right to be yourself. You're right.
Yeah, you can be whoever you want to be.
You be whoever you want to be, but just realize, and I mean, and I'm gonna say this. It goes to not just, you know, the LGBT community, but it goes to all. Not everybody's going to want to understand.
Yeah, that's true.
Not everybody's going to want to understand. Not everybody will feel comfortable with that. And at the end of the day, you can't force somebody to feel comfortable. Either they want to have a conversation or they don't.
Right.
But if they don't want to have a conversation, you already know where they're at. You already know who they are as a core, as a person. You know what I'm saying? They don't even know who they are.
That is true.
And so at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you, a lot of these people who have issues with the, you know, different cultures or LGBT community struggling with something.
Yeah, because I seen this thing. I don't forgot what state it was in where they was having an LGBT event. And then you had like the supremacist group that was like protesting. And they had the cops, and the supremacist group was on the sidewalk now. And everybody else was on the other side of the fence having a good time. Mm-hmm. But they was like protesting. I'm just like, you know what? That's just hate. We're not here to hate each other.
But see, the white supremacists don't even know themselves. I'm gonna tell you, it's just like we all want to be put in a group. Like you said, it's that childhood, elementary, like school. Like,
yeah,
you all want to be put in a group. You all want to identify. Nobody ever wants to feel lonely because they don't know themselves. And lonely is not a bad word. It's not a bad thing.
It's really not, because I mean, I hate to say it, but during the pandemic time, you know, when they was telling us we was on lockdown, you had to stay, you know, in your house and not go anywhere. I actually enjoyed it. I mean, I played plenty of Call of Duty. You know, I was getting my rankings up, Mortal Kombat. I mean, like, I actually enjoyed it because I could talk to people on the phone and I could talk to people online or not be bothered at all.
Right.
But I think the reason why people were so uncomfortable with that is because you had to sit with yourself.
That is so true.
You know? You had to sit with yourself,
and you didn't like what you saw. A lot of people, when they have to sit with themselves, they feel uncomfortable and uneasy. And that's why, you know, the white supremacist is growing. You know, you got all this hate growing because people don't want to deal with themselves. Like I said, self-identity, that's a hard thing to deal with. To actually say, you know what, I self-identify, I know who I am. That's a hard thing to do.
Yeah.
You have to tear layers of onions and pieces of yourself in order to be there and say, I know who I am. I feel confident who I am, regardless of what anybody else said.
No, you're absolutely right. 'Cause I mean, you can get some people that can sit up here right now and tell us everything in their life that they done did wrong. And be like, I could tell you what I did wrong. I know what I done wrong. I'm holding myself accountable. But if you ask that one golden question, anybody can hold themselves accountable. But are you okay with yourself?
Ooh.
No, you're not. Or there's things about yourself do you really want to change? Yes, it probably is. Or are you ready to make those changes? The question to that probably is like, no, I'm not ready to yet, because then you have to sit with yourself.
Here's the thing, that's a basic question.
It is basic. But I mean, that's part of starting your own identity though. Because what happens is you have to let go. We all have an ego. Most people be like, well, I don't have an ego. Everybody got an ego.
Everybody has one.
Now, your ego might not be big, but some people get confused about the word ego too, though. Mm-hmm. When I'm mentioning ego, I'm just saying it's a part of you that's so stubborn that you can't let go of yourself.
That's so true.
So in order to be able to identify who you really is, you got to be willing to let go of that ego. Start over from scratch. And it's hard. It's not easy. But I think sometimes society is what get us so jacked up. And because, like I say, when you walk outside your door in the morning or get in your car, it's like, what's going to be thrown at me at this given time? Where am I gotta go? It's just like if you got to go to Walgreens or you got to go to CVS or the grocery store. You know what? You put on that identity because you got to grab the backpack and say, okay, what do I gotta let show up today? You know, you walk in the store with a smile, you greeting people. You may not want to do that. You may not feel up to it, but that's a part of the ego that you done carried on for so long, where, you know, when people say, hey, how your day going? It may not be going great. You might not even want to talk to nobody. But what we do, we end up responding. Yeah. We respond because, like I said, we had to put on that backpack that morning and carry around all the different stuff, the luggage that we really don't want to do.
That being said, look, that leads into relationships with identity.
Yeah, relationships are a whole totally different thing. You know what I'm saying? But you're right, with identity. That's why a lot of people was getting divorces after COVID. They had to sit with each other, and then you really find out who you really was. Because you know what? If you keep yourself so busy over time, you never really get to know the person.
Oh, man. You say that again. I don't think they heard you.
I don't forgot what I said.
No, if they keep you busy, if you keep yourself busy for a certain amount of time, you'll never get to know the person you're with, nor yourself.
Yeah, that's what I said. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's true though. I mean, sitting with yourself, it's like, have you ever heard the phrase where they say, hey, you need to date yourself? That is really true.
I have.
That is really true. If you date yourself, and it will be for a small amount of time, just date yourself for like 60 days, you know. I can't say 30 because 30, you know what I'm saying, you get distracted a little bit. But if you date yourself for 60 days, I guarantee you coming back and you're going to sit with yourself and be like, oh, I don't know if I like the person that I see.
That's so true.
Because, you know, if somebody, you know, when you're in a relationship or whatever, and you may bicker because you put up that wall, if somebody else telling you about yourself, you know what I'm saying? Because one, that's striking your ego. Two, they letting you know about yourself, but you was like, man, now they really taking a part of your identity that you probably built up just to be in front of that person. You know, you came in with the armor on.
That's so true. That is true.
Because you passed the interview stage to get with the person. But then, you know, like you said, when you really having to start to get to know each other, you got to know each other inside out. So that's exposing each other identity on who that person really is. Because you know what? Once you pass that interview stage of saying, hey, my name is such and such, what you like to eat, what's your favorite color? Once you get all that bullshit out the way and you really starting to engage with each other and you putting the puzzles together of each other, then you're going to start realizing that, hey, I don't have all the puzzle pieces to you. Because some of the puzzle pieces you didn't realize that you threw away because you didn't like that about that person and you trying to change them, but the pieces don't fit for what you're looking for. You know what I'm saying? So identity is very important, especially jumping into a relationship. Because if you don't know yourself, but if you got that memo of, I know what I'm looking for, what you looking for is what you missing. What you looking for is what you missing within yourself.
That is so true. But you'll look for it in somebody else.
And that's why you get some people that are happy being alone, because you know what, you should never want to change for somebody if you're not changing for yourself and it's truly genuine. And you know what, sometimes you see some people who have been in 7, 8, 10, 12 relationships and they can leave them so fast because they're not willing to put in the work. But you got to also realize, like, when it comes to putting in the work, both parties got to do it, but both parties got to be willing to change for themselves. If you changing just for the other person, don't do that.
Yeah, it ain't gonna work. It's
not gonna work.
Like, you really have to, like Bonnie said, you gotta really know yourself before you get into a relationship. And it's like self-identity. Like, sit with yourself. But a lot of people, majority of the people, do not. They will get into a relationship and expect their partner or that person that they're dating to kind of fulfill that hole, because they do not know how to fulfill that hole for themselves. You know, they were never self-taught. They never was taught to love yourself or self-identify. What do you identify? What do you like? You know, and that's just like, there's some basics to that, but you got to dig deep to that too as well.
Now you have to.
You got to be vulnerable. So you got to be vulnerable with yourself. If you cannot be vulnerable with yourself, how are you going to be vulnerable with somebody else? And that's where the problem lies. People you get in a relationship, like Bonnie said, you know, 5, 10 years, 16 years. And when it comes down to it, especially behind closed doors, folks don't know how to interact with each other.
They don't. And I call it the bubblegum method.
Why is that?
Because we don't know how to interact with each other, but you want to stay together. It's very sticky. And so what happens is you chewing that gum.
Everybody write that down.
And you chewing it. And you just like, you know what? What you do? You chew the gum, you blow a bubble. The bubble is the frustrations. All your issues inside that bubble. And once you get done, it pops.
That's deep.
And when it pops, it's only one or two things. Either you release all that out of frustration and deal with it, going to couples therapy and willing to change, or you release it, pop it, throw it in the trash can and move on, saying you're not the one for me. Let me go find somebody else, but not deal with the issues. Yeah. So that's what I consider the bubblegum method. You know, it's very sticky.
So they got a whole pack because they chew.
They got
one,
a whole pack. Yep.
Get rid of that one because it don't fit the mold. And then they keep going to chewing, keep chewing, and keep chewing, and then come to find out, like, shit, when you run out of bubblegum, it really is just you.
That's what I'm saying. And then the thing of it is, if you ain't willing to work on yourself, what you gonna always do? Run.
You're gonna run and get caught up in other people's madness.
You become a track star.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, real talk. But, you know, it's hard, though, like when, you know, meeting people and being able to have genuine sit-down conversations without people taking their things, you know, the wrong way from what you're saying when you're speaking facts and just speaking your truth. People don't know how to relate to that.
You absolutely right.
Because people go into situations under false pretenses and they have this fantasy about how they want things. Oh, I want a beautiful wedding. Oh, I want us to get married. I want to buy a house. Oh, I want to get, you know, go on luxury vacations or whatever.
But that's the identity from everybody else movie, like what their best friend has went through.
Yeah, what somebody else is doing.
Right.
And then you got to turn around and be like, did you forget? We're in a recession. You know what I'm saying? Like real talk though. I mean, because you can want, but it's a difference between wanting something and needing something. So when a person coming at you with all these wants, you got to ask yourself, what am I going to get out of this? What are either one of you going to get out of besides taking trips together and doing that kind of stuff? But like, when is the day going to come where you can be able to just sit on the couch and have a serious conversation about life, moving forward and doing something healthier and positive?
Yeah, but don't that requires vulnerability?
It does.
Because you have to sit on the couch and you have to pretty much open up yourself emotionally and even physically to someone, and a lot of times that's uncomfortable for folks.
It's uncomfortable, and it all started back with also identity.
Yeah, you're right.
Because like, for instance, if you ever had childhood trauma and you never got over, or you never really understood what your trauma was, or if it was never talked about, or people told you to have you get over that, you know, and then you growing up into an identity of what everybody wants you to be because you don't know yourself.
That's
and most
true.
of the time kids don't. Kids are innocent, you know. But kids are like the best to really actually see what you want to do in life if that child was able to be that kid and be free spirited and have an imagination and be able to go out into the world and pick and choose and be independent in that kind of way. Those kids sometimes, you know, I don't know the percentage or anything like that, are more successful. They was able to have those highs and lows, talk about it, you know, get over it, but still have that freedom to be able to choose who and what they want to be with the support of their parents, friends, and stuff like that. Some kids don't get the opportunity because you hear a lot of kids that come from poverty, right? Prime example, they're a good athlete. The first thing that's coming from that community, especially the black community, is, hey, you gotta make it. You gotta make it. You know what I'm saying? The first thing the kids say on the interview, oh, I can't wait till I make it. First thing I'm going to do is buy my mama a house or buy my daddy that car that he want.
Why though?
Because you know what? The parents see the child as the prodigy. The prodigy become the product to provide for the family. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. That child never had a chance to be able to go out here and just live life. Once the parents found out, oh, you good at this? That was the investment right there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that's why a lot of kids, you know, they good, may not have nobody to talk to, because then, you know, if you're in one of those neighborhoods where the cousins and everybody else from the neighborhood who ain't doing nothing with themselves jump on the bandwagon about you making it to the big, whether it's football, baseball, soccer, wherever you doing, you get all these people jump on board. That became your identity. And then sometimes you have that mental breakdown as you get older, because it's just like you don't went through life pleasing all these people because they seen you on who you supposed to be and what you supposed to be, to where you never got a chance to live life. And next thing you know, 35, 36 years later, you up here thinking like, what would I want to be? What would I want to do?
Man, that's so true. I mean, even as me as an ex-player, athlete, you know, I felt that way a lot in high school. It wasn't like my elementary years, I didn't feel that way.
Right.
And it wasn't until my sophomore year in high school I really started to become, you know, not only that, I was dealing with, you know, family issues, but going to school and having to put on a mask and be that for everyone.
Right.
It was starting to take its toll.
It do take the toll.
Because it was like I was losing myself because, you know, I was told one time, oh, you can't, you know, you need to be more like this athlete right here.
Right.
And so in your mind, in the back of your head, it's just like, and it affects a child. You know, you thinking, well, I got to be more like this athlete. And then that takes away of self-identify, and you're becoming some monster that you really don't even know.
Yeah, because see, back then you couldn't say, no, I want to be me.
Right.
Because you would have lost some of your teeth and probably had an eyeball infection.
Even that, just not only that, like I didn't really know my.
Right, but it's easy to be molded. Even though you didn't know yourself, you still felt some type of way like, man, now I got to study this person low key. Because you know what? When you see that person in the public eye, it look like everything's good for them. So a part of you do want to be like that person, and then you trying to be like somebody else, even though you still don't know yourself because everybody's telling you who you need to be.
Man, that's so true.
I found it out the hard way when the first time I went overseas and I was playing professional basketball, and I thought like, yeah, I finally made everybody proud of me, back home, until it hit me. I'm over there. I don't speak Dutch in this big place by myself, and then that's when I realized I'm just a product, You get there, the head coach and the owner took me out to dinner. When I arrived, the head coach was waiting for me with the sign. And that's when I was just like, what now? Because for so long, from middle school ball all the way through college, that was the goal. Oh, I want to be a professional basketball player. That was the goal. So anytime I had a bad game going up to that, that would get thrown in my face. Even the time from just middle school to high school, hey, you better do what you got to do, because the only way you're going to be able to go to college is if you on scholarship. You got to get a scholarship to go to college.
Yeah.
Because that was the only way you was going to be able to get there, because you know what? You ain't going to college on a single parent household.
Especially in minorities back in the days.
Right.
Yes.
It was a business for us. Like, that was a way out, especially like when you live like in the country and ain't much going on and you coming from a small town. But the thing of it is, it was like basketball became a job. It became like, you know what? You wasn't allowed to mess up.
It was true.
You couldn't go out there and just play for fun. The only time you was allowed to play for fun was when you was playing in the yard. But when
that is so true.
When you hit the hardwood, you had to play for real.
Right.
And it was just like, it wasn't fun anymore, but couldn't tell nobody that.
Nah, you couldn't like relate that to anybody.
Nah, and I thought it would get easier going to college because, you away from home.
Really
you away from the hometown. That's even harder because, I thought like, I went to JUCO first. So I turned down universities to go to JUCO because I'm just like, man, I still want to get that D1 offer, because my whole dream school was Clemson University.
Oh, okay.
Went to all the camps and stuff, but I was a small guard. I was skinny. I was tall, but I was skinny. It's like, you need to gain weight. Never could gain weight. So what I do, I go to JUCO instead, thinking that's going to be easier, right? No, it's still harder because now they don't tell you the process. It's only a 2-year college, but you still having to play your ass off because you got college coaches coming to recruit you from there. So that's a whole nother recruiting right there. Trying to get into the schools, because the ones that you done passed up still ain't looking for you no more.
No.
You going into your junior year. And I was coming off 2 injuries, surgeries.
Knee surgeries?
Yep, knee surgery.
Oh, dang.
So you know what I'm saying? So it was just like boom, boom. But the thing of it is, was still like identifying, letting them know like, hey, I'm still that person. But then when they ask you like, who are you? Go back to the encyclopedia of the main person. I'm a team player. All this stuff that you already done memorized. Still not knowing who I was. Didn't know. That's a hard question.
That is a hard question. Athletes, I feel like, I don't know about that. They probably still go to the same thing.
Well, athletes now, they're entitled. Because now you got the NIL deals. Athletes in college are making more than some of the athletes in the pros right now. Especially for the women. Especially for the women who got NIL deals. College women are making more than the WNBA right now,
But that puts, I feel like that probably puts more pressure on them too as well. Because when you start getting deals, you're getting deals because of who you became, in that process as an athlete, right?
Right.
And so now it's just like you got to try to keep that facade, because if you fuck up, I'm going to tell you this now. As an athlete, I always used to think, when I had a good day, I know it would be in the paper.
Right.
Everybody would see it. When I had a bad day, I'm going to tell you, it's in the papers. And those conversations that they're having in those papers are horrible. Yeah,
because they be like, Charity Reed had a rough night tonight. She was only 2 for 10 from the field. And it's just like, dang.
Yeah, they really come at you. They really dig. And so that makes me think, like, with the new age athletes, like, damn, y'all got more pressure than we did back then, because y'all making a lot more money. With a lot more money comes more pressure, right? More problems.
Right.
But it ain't the problems that we're used to as far as struggling and coming from the hood. It's a different type of problem. So like Boney said, you got to be a product. So that's where identity comes into, because number one, you no longer self-identify. You identify as that product.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is just like once you start to learn to know yourself, it's also like sometimes it's better to be by yourself, because nobody else can bring you down. That's so even in the workplace, or even like, especially if you're a creator. And I think that's why there are so many influencers now, because it's like the best person to work for is yourself.
You ain't lying. You can have bad days and be like, oh, fuck it.
Yep. You be like, you know what? I get to this tomorrow.
Yeah.
You ain't got nobody riding down your neck, taking the credit for your work.
Right.
I
mean, they try.
Yeah, they try.
We've seen it.
Yeah. We done seen it plenty of times.
Yeah, we've seen it.
We live and we learn.
Yeah, we live and we learn, and so working for yourself, it's a lot more. It's a lot of work. It's definitely a lot of fucking work.
It is,
but there's also a level of peace that you don't get when you're working for somebody else.
Right, but working for yourself, especially, I think what people don't realize is you have to do something that you love to do that you don't have to force yourself to do. You got to have, when you work for yourself, you got to have that passion. Passion plays a huge part in working for yourself.
Yeah,
it does.
That passion, that drive. And then also, like, you're working for yourself, be careful who you're around. Or you have in your circle.
True.
Because that can pretty much put a damper.
No, that's true.
But
you know what? It really is, though.
I don't know.
You definitely know. It's true, though, because you know what I'm saying? That's just even like, I hate when people be like, you can meet people for the first time, and the first thing they be like, oh, so what is it that you do? I be wanting to say, why is it any of your business? You know what I'm saying? Because the thing of it is, the reason why the defense for me get up so high is because I've had people that just like genuinely use me because of who I was. And so for the longest, I wouldn't even tell people what I did or who I was, you know what I'm saying? Because, it ain't about that. I want you to know me for me, get to know my personality and who I really am, not about what I do. You know what I'm saying? And people don't look at stuff like that.
They really don't.
Like, I don't ask people like, oh, what is it that you do? Like, I really care. I don't be caring because we ain't paying each other bills.
But I think a lot of people ask that because they figure out, okay, how I'm going to get to point A to point right. In United States, you're taught that stepping on people's necks is okay to get to the top. And no matter who you screw or how you get it, you're going to get it. So it's a dog-eat-dog world. That's how they treat it. I think now is more than ever. It's changing, but that's how it was.
It could be. But it just kind of just like when it comes to everybody want to know like what you do and all that stuff. It's just kind of like, no, you really need to know the person. I mean, y'all better start watching Lifetime. I'm just saying, because I'm saying if you get hooked onto the wrong interest about an individual and not really getting to know them as a person, you miss key signs about who they truly are.
That is so true.
I'm just saying.
That being said, I know people are going to be wondering, well, what do you guys self-identify?
I'm bony.
I identify in professional world. We will identify as he, she, her, she, her. She, her.
I don't think it matter which one you put first. But
okay. And a lot of times I just go by charity. I want you to know me as an individual. Fuck the sex. Forget what you see. Know me.
Right.
Understand me. Understand my heart, my genuineness. So that's where I'm coming.
For me, like I said, I can barely remember people's names. And even when I can't remember their name, I go by, I'm the worst at this. I am the worst because
like, really is.
I really like I'll look at a person and I'll just like give them a name, but deep down in my soul, they really look like that. They would be named that person. So if you know me, everybody can identify. They be like, hell yeah, Bonnie can't remember nobody's name, and I'll literally just give you a name and call you that person.
That's so true.
But in defense, it's just kind of like
Lucas for the long time.
Yeah, you Lucas. I don't really go by pronouns because I don't really want to disrespect anybody. So I really try to engage with their name. And I may get it wrong the first 5, 6, 7 times. But to me, I will engage in that person's name because that name is something that is genuinely special and unique to them. We got our names because of a special occasion, or you know what I'm saying, or it's something that is valued. So that's what I mostly try to identify with people is like, what's your name?
What's your name?
I mean, if you say, hey, I want you to call me Dirt, you know what? I'm calling you Dirt, because then I'll get the background story or why you was called Dirt and who Dirt is or whatever. And that's something that I can be able to relate to on your level to know a little bit about you. Okay, why they call you Dirt? You know what I'm saying? True. Like, people ask me all the time. People say, oh, that's a unique name. They sometimes they'll say Bonnie, and I'm like, I'm not a Bonnie. It's Boney, because they be thinking like, oh, I don't want to mispronounce. I'm like, no, it's Boney, Boni. But then people will ask like, well, how did you get the nickname Boney? And I'm just like, oh, basketball when I was 9th grade, and it just carried on, and people are like, oh, cool. And so then they remember it, So I always just try to respect people and go by their name. I respect pronouns too, but if you want me to remember something, because I get like tongue tied when people give me like their pronoun, and I'll be like, I don't know what to call them, So instead of me saying like, if somebody asks me about Charity and be like, oh, where did she go? I'll just say, instead of saying she, I'll just be like, Charity went to, or I use the name. That way I don't disrespect nobody.
And it makes it easier too.
Yeah.
Because even though you may identify them, they or
I don't know all the rest of them.
I don't know all the rest of them, but just your name, like Bonnie said, is so so unique. It's to you, and whether you change it, it's still your name. You pick that name. It's unique. It says something about you, who you are, your identity, your self-respect, your morals. That's who you are.
Yeah. And no disrespect about if people want to go by pronouns. Yeah. That's who you are too. That's who you are.
That's who you are. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah,
I want to get to know you as a person.
Right. And I think everybody need to understand we having this discussion based on our own personal opinions, because we know everybody's different. Everybody's entitled to their own personal opinion. And we have always listened to people's personal opinion side, and we don't be argumentative, because like I say, everybody have different views. We just discussing our views. Mm-hmm. So I don't want nobody to get that twisted. This is just our views.
This is not a dab or a dig at the pronouns or what you self-identify. It's pretty much to have conversations, just to open up that dialogue and make it to the point where it is comfortable.
Right.
Because I know no one's trying to be malice, just trying to have a level of understanding.
Yeah, and best like I said, I mean, even before the pronouns even came in place, I mean, I've always been misidentified. I'm used to it though. I mean, but you know what? It come with parts though. It do. Mm-hmm. Especially like if you gotta go to the bathroom. I just go to the guys' bathroom if the women's bathroom is full, especially for like events and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I just throw the hat back and just don't say nothing to nobody and just walk on in.
Yeah, they be like, excuse me, sir, especially if I gotta pee so bad. Excuse me, sir. Uh-huh. And then they look back, wait a minute. But I mean, it's about loving yourself, actually really sitting down and really grappling with yourself of who you really are and who you really self-identify.
True.
Because at the end of the day, you're going to eventually end up in a relationship where conversation's going to come up, and you got to be vulnerable, but in order to do that, you gotta sit with yourself, self-identify, be vulnerable with yourself. Don't expect somebody else to understand when you don't understand, or don't expect somebody else to give you something when you don't even give it to yourself.
That is true. That is true.
So, that being said, we're going to wrap it up here. But the question is, how do you self-identify? And do you really know yourself? That's a question to ask yourself in the mirror.
That is. Until then, we'll see you guys next time.
We'll have another juicy topic and conversation. Remember, we do these conversations to keep things flowing, relatable, and understanding. This is not to come from a malice point. Like I said, in order to get comfortable, you have to be uncomfortable. So that being said, we'll see you next week.
Deuces.